Well, it's a rainy afternoon this 9th day of September 2022 here at Broadcast House. Welcome to the Lunchtime News with me, Wadulo, Mark Arnold. This is your bulletin this afternoon. Now, to start off on a sad note, yesterday Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty the Queen, who passed on at Balmoral Castle. Queen Elizabeth II, the United Kingdom's longest ever reigning monarch, ascended to the throne in 1952 at the age of 25. Let's now look at some of her memorable moments as Queen.
She was Britain's longest reigning monarch. The one constant in a country that changed so much over so many decades. From the post-war era of food rations to the digital age. The Queen moved with the times, and the people moved with her. As popular in the 50s as she was well over 50 years later. Through crises inside and outside her family, public support and affection towards her rarely, if ever, wavered. A monarch admired for her longevity and sense of duty, with her beloved husband by her side, and as a widow queen. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor was born at the home of her mother's parents, 17 Bruton Street, in London's Mayfair.
Princess Elizabeth was to them as great.
At the time, her grandfather, King George V, was on the throne. Her father, the Duke of York, was the second son of King George and Queen Mary. When her grandfather died, her uncle Edward became king, but it was a reign that would last just 10 months. He abdicated to marry an American divorcee.
His irrevocable determination to renounce the throne.
In a year that saw 3 kings, Elizabeth's father assumed the throne. That she would one day become queen was now not in doubt. She met her future husband 2 years earlier, in 1934, when they attended the wedding of Prince Philip's cousin, Princess Marina of Greece, and the Duke of Kent, who was an uncle of Princess Elizabeth. By the end of the decade, war had broken out and Philip was sent to sea. Elizabeth spent those war years in the Auxiliary Territorial Service.
The princess, who was on the eve of her 19th birthday when these pictures were taken, is at the wheel of a 1,500-weight truck in convoy.
A monarch of the future, but for now a mechanic, and one not afraid to muck in and get her hands dirty.
Today is Victory in Europe Day.
When the war ended, she chose to leave the palace and celebrate with the crowds on the streets of London. 2 years later, Princess Elizabeth married Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. A nation still battered and bruised by war, it was a wedding to lift the country's spirits. In 1949, Charles became the first of 4 children, soon followed by Anne. For a few years at least, they enjoyed relative normality, out of the public spotlight. Then came the news that the Queen's father, King George VI, had passed away at the age of just 56. Elizabeth and Philip were in Kenya, only a few days into a 5-month tour of the Commonwealth. At 25 years old, a young woman who never imagined in early childhood that she would one day become Queen, was now head of state. The coronation took place a year later in 1953, an event the Duke of Edinburgh insisted should be televised for the world to see. In the 60s, Andrew and Edward completed the family. The Queen is said to have worried about her children, like any mother. And on her silver wedding anniversary in 1972, she spoke lovingly about what her family meant to her.
Now that we have reached this milestone in our lives, we can see how immensely lucky we have been, or perhaps fortunate might be a better word. We had the good fortune to grow up in happy and united families.
Though the Queen and the Duke's marriage was a lasting success, the same could not be said of their children's. In 1992, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson separated. Princess Anne and Mark Phillips divorced. Then Charles and Diana separated. And a major fire engulfed a large part of Windsor Castle. Little wonder then that she didn't consider her 40th year as Queen to be the happiest of her reign.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. It has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
But worse was sadly to come in 1997, when Princess Diana was killed in that Paris car crash. The outpouring of emotion from the public was like nothing this country had ever seen before. The lack of any immediate expression of grief from the Queen or other senior royals did not go down well, and the Queen was perceived as being out of step with public sentiment. She had assumed her role as grandmother, protecting William and Harry from the public eye at Balmoral. They waited longer than they'd hoped, but eventually the public got the appearance they'd yearned for, and the Queen paid this tribute to Diana in a televised statement.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
That dreadful year was to end on a happier note, when the Queen and Prince Philip celebrated their golden wedding anniversary, and the Queen paid her husband this tribute.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
Outside family life, the Queen had many interests, perhaps most famously horses. She loved riding them and watching them too. A regular at the Derby at Epsom and Ascot, where her horses won on several occasions. Such was her love of the outdoors and determination to protect the natural world, she launched the Queen's Commonwealth Canopy, a conservation project with the mission of creating a network of forests in each of the 53 countries of the Commonwealth. Her dedication to the Commonwealth, and particularly her beloved home country, never wavered, serving more than 600 charities as royal patron or president. Even after the Duke of Edinburgh retired from public life, the Queen continued her busy diary of royal engagements, a life of public service that saw her host well over 100 state visits. In the new millennium, she was also kept busy not just by others, but by her own milestones. A Golden Jubilee, a Diamond one. The moment in 2015 she became the longest reigning monarch, followed a year later by her 90th birthday. And at the age of 96, a weekend of celebrations to mark her Platinum Jubilee. In between,
good evening, Mr. Bond.
There was that appearance in the opening ceremony of the 2012 Olympics in London. And while she made the headlines, so did the younger generation of the royal family, for the right reasons and the wrong ones. Her second son Andrew faced allegations of sexual assault by Virginia Giuffre, allegations which he denied. She claimed she was trafficked to have sex with Andrew when she was 17 by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who was a friend of the prince. In the end, the Queen stripped Andrew of his honorary military roles and royal patronages, and it was agreed that he would stop using his HRH style. In the Queen's later years, it wasn't just Andrew causing problems for her. Harry and Meghan stunned Buckingham Palace, and indeed the world, in a shock announcement that they wanted out of the royal family. A summit meeting was held at Sandringham, and a deal thrashed out that left Harry with rather less than he might have hoped. Gone was his role as Captain General of the Royal Marines. Gone too his position as Commonwealth Youth Ambassador, to which the Queen appointed him. Harry and Meghan began a new life in California. It was there that they gave Oprah Winfrey a bombshell interview about their old life in the UK and how it left Meghan feeling suicidal.
I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that was a very clear and real and frightening constant thought.
It was one of many shocking revelations. Others include allegations of racism within the royal family. A new crisis for the Queen to deal with, just as the country, and indeed the whole world, was beginning to emerge from its biggest health crisis for a century. The coronavirus pandemic was a heartbreaking, stressful and anxious time, and the Queen found the words to comfort her people in only her 5th special television address of her reign.
I hope in the years to come, everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge. And those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
1 year and 4 days after that television address, the Queen was grieving her own personal loss, as so many had done that year. After 73 years of marriage, her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, passed away at the age of 99. Restrictions on numbers allowed at funerals were still in place, rules that applied to the royal family just as much as everyone else who'd lost loved ones during the pandemic. The widow Queen continued her busy diary of engagements, just as she had with Prince Philip by her side. There were times when, on doctor's orders, those engagements became virtual instead. That commitment to serving her country and the Commonwealth is a legacy she passes on to the new king and those who will follow. With such a loyal sense of duty despite her personal grief, old age and family drama in the background, it isn't hard to see why public affection for the Queen remained as high as ever. This was a duty she did not choose, a destiny which befell her at the age of just 10, a monarch through times of so much change, and one whose reign is unlikely to be surpassed any time soon.
Yes, those are some of the memorable moments for the Queen Elizabeth II as she was the Queen of England. Now, the death of the Queen Elizabeth II has also triggered changes to the roles and titles of other members of the royal family. Most notably, there is a new king, the Queen's eldest son, Charles, who has chosen to go by the name King Charles III.
Prince Charles officially became king as soon as his mother passed away. He would have been addressed as Your Majesty the King the moment that she stopped being Your Majesty. It's a seamless transition. And in fact, the royal standard, which would have represented the Queen, will now represent the King. And that's why the royal standard doesn't go to half-mast. It stays up in recognition of the fact that there is continuity of monarchy. When Charles becomes king, Camilla, his wife, will become the Queen Consort. There'll also be changes in the titles of other members of the royal family. Prince William will become the Duke of Cornwall and in time will be invested as the Prince of Wales. There's also precedent for changes to the titles of the grandchildren. That's the children of William and Kate, Harry and Meghan, Eugenie and Beatrice. Currently, not all of them have the title of Prince or Princess, but it may be in Charles's gift to change that.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
Charles's first official duty is to address his new nation, and he'll do that in a televised address. And then the following day, he'll bring together his Ascension Council, made up of privy councillors, his advisors, and they will gather and they will formally ratify his position as king. And at the end of that, the heralds will go up onto the roof of St James's Palace, a wonderful medieval palace in London, in their full regalia with their trumpets, and they will proclaim the new king. Over the coming days, the new king will travel to various areas of his realm to meet his new subjects. He'll meet the political leaders in the devolved governments. He'll also meet religious leaders and hold services of thanksgiving at various cathedrals. But he'll also meet the people that he is now going to be serving as king. The circumstances in which Charles has found out that he's become king are very different to those when his mother Elizabeth found out that she was taking the throne. She was much younger when her father, King George VI, died in 1952 in Sandringham, the royal estate in Norfolk. At the time she was in Kenya, so it took a while for the news to get to her, and then she was delayed coming back to the UK because of a thunderstorm. Charles is in his 70s. He's already the oldest heir to the throne in the UK, and he has had decades to prepare for this moment. The other senior members of the royal family will be intimately involved in events between the Queen's death and her funeral. As was the case with Prince Philip and other royals before him, close family members will accompany the coffin on foot as it makes its final journeys. Her children will attend the lying in state, and stand vigil around their mother's coffin. Traditionally, the coronation of the new monarch takes place at least 6 months after the passing of the old one. This is to allow for an appropriate period of mourning. So we expect the coronation of King Charles to take place within the next year.
Well, from a prince to a king, the story of Prince Charles now. The condolence book here in Uganda has been opened at the British High Commission in celebration of the life of the Queen Elizabeth II. British High Commissioner to Uganda, Kate Airy, was the first to sign on this book, describing the late Queen as a great leader of all generations. These are some of the details.
Today is a profoundly sad day for the people of my country, for the realms, for the Commonwealth, and indeed for the whole world. Her Majesty the Queen was the longest reigning monarch, 70 years of service to my country, and she has been a constant for many of us in what has been an incredibly fast-changing world. She is also a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and this is also a moment for us to offer our condolences to the royal family for what will be a great loss. But they, like us here at the British High Commission, have been hugely supported through that loss, at being able to see just the outpouring of respect, of love, of grief from across the whole of the world, from leaders past and present, from people across society in all countries. And obviously there is a particular poignance for countries of the Commonwealth like Uganda on a day like today. She was a remarkable leader, and I think many of us across the world have a very personal relationship with Her Majesty the Queen, one that, you know, we've often reflected on. I think even though at 96, I think this is still a shock to many of us, including us here at the British High Commission. But like I say, the messages of support and of love and of respect from across here in Uganda that we have been inundated with over the last 12 hours have been deeply moving, have been incredibly supportive of all of us here. So formally enter now 10 days of official mourning, or up until after the funeral. And we still have details of the funeral to be confirmed, and we will let you know when those come through. You know, whilst that sort of period of mourning, we also will, you know, we are sort of recognising the importance of this moment and all of our duties, opening up to the public, offering those condolence books. Also, you know, the business of government continues. So we are here also to do our duty. Her Majesty the Queen, as the most phenomenal public servant, would expect nothing less.
Long live the Queen. The Ministry of Finance now in Uganda is ready to support initiatives geared at ensuring Uganda is food secure. Finance Minister Matia Kasaija says that it will call for concerted efforts by the public, private and development partners to deal with the challenges related to climate change that the country is currently grappling with. He said this during the Climate Change and Food Security Symposium held at the International University of East Africa.
The Ministry of Finance is ready
We do beg your pardon, we are sorry for that glitch. The Office of the Prime Minister, through the Office of Member of Parliament Kashari North Mbarara District Bataringaya Basil Rankwene, has donated 232 iron sheets to St. Paul Ruwindi Girls Primary School. The donation for construction of 3 classrooms destroyed by hailstones of recent was officially handed over to members of the school management committee by the area MP Basil Bataringaya.
The Office of the Prime Minister has offered 232 iron sheets to St. Paul Rubindi Girls Primary School, Mbarara, at the request of the MP Kashari North, Basil Bataringaya.
So I want to thank the NRM government led by His Excellency General Yoweri Museveni, the Ministry of Education led by Honorable Janet Kataha, and the Office of the Prime Minister, who have delivered these iron sheets and worked in the true NRM spirit of running to support and help the people when the need requires.
This follows a recent incident in which a thunderstorm destroyed a 4-classroom block at the school. The Member of Parliament, Kashari North, Basil Bataringaya, asked parents to cooperate with school management committee to improve infrastructure for a conducive learning environment.
We now request you to be behind the children so that they perform very well. We call upon the parents that if there is a slight increase in the school fees, it is not against government policy. However, it is done to match the increase in the prices of the commodities as a result of the inflation.
Of schools, Mbarara District, Muhwezi Deo, said destruction occurred due to heavy downpour-laden wind. He thanked government for giving support to the school for improvement of education standards in the district.
To thank the NRM government for the support it is giving or it is rendering to education standards in Mbarara District.
The head teacher, St. Paul Rubindi Girls Primary School, Mwebesa Deo, thanked the Office of the Prime Minister and the area MPs for the support and promised to ensure the school gets back to its feet. Sudat, UBC News.
Now, Nyege event preparations are still ongoing despite the stand of Parliament for the event not to. Incidentally, the people in Jinja are excited about the business perspective from which they will earn unusual income in the development of the event. The event is going to bring the district change, is what they say. These are some of the highlights or snippets we picked from the ground.
Members of Parliament bali excited ndoza abandi bachamufulu akuba bali mu Parliament nakuba bali Kampala. What is very important, bategere ebizibu bya Uganda, bategere ebintu bya Busoga, era bategere nti nyegenyege tine yaleta homosexuality mu nsi. Aba member of Parliament ali kukola argument at homosexuality ereta eva munyegenyege.
Embuzi emitwalo 10 tujitunda emitwalo ago asatu. Ekoko y'omutwalo tujitunda emitwalo ejo ena tetubate tufuna mungafu abavu ekyalo batulekera nyegenyege.
Kino kijja kwongera okutumula Uganda osmosi okuya and Uganda erijafuna in terms of foreign exchange kubanga bana abantu balireeta dola saadi no wononya hotel mu kibuga yindango eno kasata mwene tosobola agifuna nze nina abantu abaliva kuya bena baire ndino ndeza hotel wano muyirinda mwene tyafunye kubanga dona badipangisa
mukwainenge engudo dilikolebwa kino kituyamba kuti balikola n'engudo ko tuyida okubisa enana daife enda gidaife okuditwala mu town ya Idinda okuditunda.
Safety to employees abana abawerako ba divers abakuno ne ba marines abagenda oku overseeing buli kimu tulese ba lifeguards ne instructors okusomesa abantu okuwuga atamanyi kuwuga kubwerere.
Yakoti me the president of Uganda nendo okumwebaza ni number 1 supporter and defender of Nyegenyege festival. President ayenda abantu babe happy, ayenda abantu banumirwe. President yatuwagira mu 2018 nga bendosa za mu Nyegenyege yatuwagira mu 2019 and the same atuwagira.
Furthermore, Ugandan women and entrepreneurs have been challenged to start embracing new technological developments like the digital financial solutions so as to be able to competitively compete with their counterparts in some developing African countries. Now, this was during the inaugural Women Leaders Roundtable meeting under the support of the Graca Machale Trust Fund in partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation held at the Imperial Royal Hotel in Kampala.
Lack of willingness to adopt to new technological innovations, high interest rates, and lack of self-confidence and some negative cultures have been identified as some of the challenges affecting Ugandan women who venture into the business world. Participants at the inaugural Roundtable Women Leadership Meeting at Imperial Royal Hotel in Kampala also underscored the need for more coordination and networking among the various women organizations in pursuit of the agenda. Dr. Theopista Sekitontale, the Uganda country coordinator of the Graca Machale Trust Fund, said that it's high time Ugandan women embrace the new emerging technologies so as to be able to compete favorably with the rest of their counterparts in Africa.
Today's focus was so much on digitalization and financial inclusion. After COVID, we all know that people who were very good with the digital forms were in a better position. So what we are saying is, what different measures are we going to do to include more people into this space?
However, Abel Mwesige, the Chief Executive Officer of CASITA, a Kampala-based business community organization, challenged the women leaders to consider decentralizing such good and innovative initiatives to the benefit of the grassroots women.
Practice is good, but then we realized that the people that need to actually hear this message, people that need to implement this message, are largely outside the urban areas, and so such projects they usually benefit those in the urban areas. Yet women across the country are quite many.
Participants were equipped on some skills of access to affordable credit, convenient tax payments, procedures, among others.
That the government of Uganda, in order to unlock the challenges of access to finance by farmers, especially the women and the youth and other actors along the agricultural value chain,
guarantee you that when you walk to these different arcades, 90% are women.
The Graca Machale Trust, in partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, support the roundtables, which will be running in the next 3 years in 7 African countries, which include Uganda, Nigeria, Cameroon, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Ethiopia. The move came after research which established that although 58% of African women engage in income generating
Vimba! Ni MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy. Leaders who care create a good learning environment.
Because a good school equals a better life.
Raising voices.
Water gives life. Water is life. But not all water is created equal. Refresh yourself with the new quality Nirvana packaged drinking water and fuel you and your passion to go further in life.
Visit a shop near you and grab a 250 ml at 500 shillings, 500 ml at 1,000 shillings, 1.5 liters at 2,000 shillings, or the 20-liter jumbo bottle at 19,000 shillings. Nirvana is a product of Crown Beverages Limited, the makers of Pepsi products.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial *149*10# to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial *149*10*5#. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial *149*10# to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Lunchtime News broadcasting live from Nile Avenue. We now take you to more business stories. Chinese delegation from Eastern Industrial Zone in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, are eyeing Uganda for investment. By establishing business in Uganda, the companies are confident of accelerating the process of industrialization and job creation.
The road policy. Based on that policy, we were invited by Tiantan Group to come to here to investigate the marketing. My company, Shenzhen Bestman, we would like to devote our energy to improve our local medical and healthy care situation. So we visit many local hospitals.
The Chinese delegation are eyeing key sectors of the economy such as manufacturing, mining, information, communication and technology, medical and pharmaceutical industry, construction, among others. Dennis Igoa for UBC Business.
Now, Toro Kingdom has received a support of 30 million to support the coronation event of Omukama of Toro, Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV, slated for the 12th of September. The financial support is based on long-standing collaboration between the two entities that has impacted positively on the local community of Toro.
The Kingdom of Toro was cut off from Bunyoro, the Great Kingdom. On record that in the 200 years, Toro Kingdom have got so far, this is the 30th king.
Through leveraging on the heritage and historical sites in the kingdom, Cultural Minister Peter Rusoke says they will use the function to propagate socio-economic transformation.
So we are looking at how culture can assist this generation in 100 years to have achieved ABCD. That is the infrastructure and of course agriculture, science and technology, which is at a rapid speed, whereby we need also to equip the king's subjects to match with the current situation.
The kingdom is a predominant source of sorghum and cassava, which are the main raw materials for Uganda breweries, and it's on this backdrop that Uganda Breweries Limited has supported coronation activities with 30 million shillings.
It is a very significant part of the tradition of the celebration, and therefore we have made a modest contribution of 30 million shillings towards these events, so that the people of Toro can celebrate, especially on the Kasiki Day, they can celebrate with our products.
The partnership of these two entities has over the years boosted agricultural produce through encouraging the adoption of modern technology and proper farming practices.
So we are encouraging, because of our concern about the environment, And you have all heard about environmental, social governance, carbon emissions, and so on. We're also encouraging what we're calling green agriculture.
The Omukama of Toro, Oyonyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV, was enthroned on the 11th of June 1994 at 3 years of age. Marion Awori, UBC News.
Well, still a very rainy afternoon here in Kampala, especially here at Broadcast House. But as we continue to mourn with Europe, please do reflect on some of the good things God has brought us through the Eastern Bloc in Europe. Thank you very much for joining us for the Lunchtime News. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold, and have yourselves a lovely one.
Brought to you by this new football season.